Well, it seems I've got to do this Uncut. Again, you might notice that I've done two in a row, and there is a good reason for that, and that is that my brother Nathaniel, who does the other ones, had a small new arrival yesterday. So his second child arrived, I think about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So congratulations, Nathaniel. No doubt that will keep him busy over the coming, well, I was going to say the coming weeks, but let's be honest, probably the forthcoming 25 years. So, yeah, he's got his hands full for a bit. But yeah, let's wander over to that E-Type and start the tour. So, welcome to another Retropower Uncut. We asked the question last week about what engine we should put in this. Trying to decide between the Jag V12 or Chevy LS3. And actually, there was a surprising amount of support for the Chevy idea. I thought we'd get absolutely slaughtered for suggesting that. It's still completely undecided, and of course, as a lot of people pointed out, there are plenty of other options as well. One quite cool one would be the Toyota V12 from the Century. But it does seem a bit, at that point, using an engine from a really rare car that's almost not found in the UK, kind of seems like you're doing that just for the sake of it. But yeah, we're still open to options on that. You'll notice we've taken a few parts off this now. So Adam's taken various trim parts off, the bumpers, lights, all the rear bumpers and lights, and we've stripped out the whole of the interior because the next step on this is we're going to be 3D scanning quite a lot of it. So we've then got CAD models of the interior and the exterior surfaces, so we can use those as a template for designing some of the new parts. And we're just about in the latter stages of the design rendering package for this as well. We're sort of at the bit now where we've handed what we think are our final ideas over to the customer, so he can review them, and no doubt there'll be a few juggles back and forth to get the details refined. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that one on the new year. Utah, James has been working on the boot. So the trim panels we decided to do at the sides of the boot, we're going to have them curved down to sort of mirror the curved outer quarter panel shape. So we decided the best way to do that was going to be in fiberglass. So James modelled them in foam on the car itself, and when he was happy with that, took them through to the body shop, moulded fiberglass over the foam models, and then essentially prepped and painted. It was a bit of a juggling act. We were trying to decide whether to do a model, take a splash of it in fiberglass, to then lay the final one up on the inside, in which case you've already got the smooth A surface on the final product. But of course you've got to do a really good job of prepping the model to get it absolutely perfect, so because that's going to be the finish of the final part. Or whether you just lay up over the model, accounting for the fact that it's slightly bigger than the model, and then just prep the B surface effectively as the final finish. And actually we decided to go with the latter because the amount of time into prepping that B surface to a finished A surface state is not that great. And then of course the plus is the panel looks pretty good on both sides. So yeah, he's made those. We're just working on the floor now. There's going to be a false floor section with a hinged lift-up panel in the boot floor. So James has just been working out how that's all going to work. It's going to be on gas struts with a little flip-down lever that goes in flush on it. So we'll see that develop over the coming weeks. Let's have a look down here. Mustang. It's just been basic reassembly work really. Adam's been working on all the front end, so we've got more of the front panels in now, the grills are in, all the headlight surrounds. John's just over there now making up the final piece in the fuel line puzzle, which is the hard line that goes from the pump to the carburettor. So with that on and the remaining flexi lines on, that's the fuel system completely plumbed. Brake system I believe is done. And we've just been going through another parts order. As I've mentioned to you before, this car, we were originally only going to do the shell, and then the owner asked us to carry on and do the full build. He supplied the car stripped and then supplied us a lot of new parts. But we've had a bit of a juggling act in working out what parts are there and what aren't, because he threw away all of the old parts, thinking that he'd ordered everything new, and there's actually quite a lot of new parts that aren't there. So now we've got to this stage, we've been able to identify 99% of the missing parts, and get on with ordering those. So we've got a batch of new stuff coming over from the States this week, which will allow us to carry on with the next phase of the build. Wiring is going to be going in shortly, so that's one of the next phases. But yeah, it's getting pretty close to the point where we'd be able to fire it up. We're an exhaust system away from that, but once that's in place, John's finished the fuel plumbing, and we've got some of the basic wiring in place, we should be able to fire it up. So yeah, that's an exciting phase to be at. The Chevette is very much in the latter stages. We had some of the machined bits arrive this week. So I think last week I mentioned the fact that we'd been working on the bonnet prop arrangement. It's a carbon fibre bonnet prop. George has designed a little clevis that it attaches to on the underside of the bonnet, and a little receiver for the slam panel. Andy, Concept 303, has machined those for us. They arrived this week. The aluminium parts have gone off to be anodised. As soon as they're back, they can go on. He also did the wheel centre caps. We've trial fitted those. They look spot on, so they've gone away to be anodised. Scott has been on with some bits on the interior. He's actually in there now. We made a little shield around the power steering ECU, which sits on the driver's kick panel, and it was quite easy to catch your foot on it when you were pressing the throttle. So I've made a little shield that sits around that in aluminium. We've also done a couple of carbon fibre panels. There's one that sits above the passenger footrest that infills up to the bottom of the dash, because the battery sits behind there, and where the battery cables come up and the wiring to the PDM and the ECU come out from those items wasn't quite as tidy as I would like, so we've made a little carbon fibre panel just to close in the footwell there. And then we've also made a little triangular carbon fibre panel that goes in the little gap formed between the roll cage and the front of the door shut and the bottom of the dash, and we've done that on both sides just so you can't see in and around sort of the back of the dash there. So yeah, definitely final stages. I think the first week in January we'll be wrapping everything up. Scott actually at this exact moment is fitting the gear knob we had. It's a Quaife sequential box. They come with a white nylon gear knob, which is kind of a Quaife trademark, but we wanted, with everything being black, we wanted it to be black. So we've machined a black nylon gear knob to replace that. Scott's just been fitting that and the Alcantara gear gaiter that we've done. So it's all coming together. As I was saying, January should be ticking off the last jobs and road testing. So definitely we'll get some in-car footage. I know everybody sort of misses the fact that we don't get an awful lot of driving footage, because usually when we get to the end of a project it's handed over fairly quickly to the customer, but I will endeavour to get some driving footage of this one. Right, if you follow me this way, we will have a look around the other side. Now there's plenty of beanie hats and mugs in stock still. Still plenty of time to get them out to you before Christmas, so get your orders in. I think this will be the last opportunity before Christmas. Right, so Tom, he's actually off today, but Tom's been carrying on with the Land Cruiser. He's been working on the front seat base. He's made up these absolute work of art closing panels that sit on each side of the seat base. That's actually the driver's side. This is the passenger side one. They essentially sit like that, with the bottom of the door running around this area here, and this shape kind of mimics the bottom of the door. Recess in here not only looks really nice, but allows clearance for the door card when the door shuts. So yeah, he's done a beautiful job of that, and that goes for the rest of the job, which is coming together really well on this area now. So he's panelled in the front of this seat frame now. Those side bits go in here that I just showed you. We've just been welding in the bosses that hold the seat runners, and the next thing he's going to do is make the closing panel over the top of this. Now it's going to be a bolt-in panel, so you can remove it to get access to the fuel tanks. It's probably been made in two pieces actually, so one under the driver's seat and one under this double seat this side, so that, for instance, if you want to access that tank that side, which will have the pump in it, you've only got to take the one seat out on the one panel to access that tank. So yeah, that's going to be the next step on that. If you come over here, bit of a change around here. The Jensen's back out of the body prep area. We're going to take a break on that in terms of prep work at the moment. Twofold reason: we've got the quarters as far as we can really go without having a door skin on there, so we can start blocking across the door skin onto the quarter to make sure there's a nice flow of the line there and it's not just a sudden change of angle. and also we're waiting for the tooling to do the roof aperture. So we're having, from the CAD model that we made the glass panel model from, so to explain that in a bit more detail, we scanned the roof of a car that doesn't have a sunroof hole in it. From that, we decided the shape, the size of the glass panel we want to put into the roof, and made a CAD model of that glass panel that's now gone off to the glass manufacturer to make the tooling for that. But then we need a tool made to form the aperture into the roof that glass panel will sit into. So we're doing that in fiberglass on this body, and then when the molds are taken from this body to make the final carbon fiber body, that aperture will already be in it. So the drawings have been done for that tooling. They've been sent away now to machine that tool. It's just going to be machined from a massive block of MDF. And essentially the tool sits over onto the roof. There's one piece on the top, one piece on the bottom. They clamp together to make sure that the roof is clamped into the right shape, because when you take that wooden Webasto structure out, it gets quite wavy. So it'll be clamped into the right shape. And then on the underside, we'll have the joyous task of fiberglassing upside down to fiberglass over the tool to actually create the aperture that the glass will sit into. So when the glass goes in and is bonded in, it will sit totally flush. And Tom, over the course of coming weeks, will crack on and make the door skins. I think the plan is to do those in aluminium as per the original. They'll be very similar to original, the only major change being the door handle, which we're going to be using Aston Martin, I think it's DB, I can't remember if it's DB7 or DB9, but the flip out Aston Martin door handles. So we'll have to make the necessary changes to fit those. But that's that, and with that out of there, the Morris is in. So flat out on the initial filler work and prep work on the Morris. The guys have also done the seam sealing on that first. So yeah, I mean, we're all very excited to see that take shape. It was cool seeing it all with the changes in the metalwork, and with it sat here kind of as a bare metal shell. It looks mean and purposeful, but at the same time, you sort of can't wait to see it all come together with paint on it. So yeah, really excited to see that transform over the next few weeks. And finally, behind you actually, and I'll walk around this way, Stu's working on it right now. The two-door conversion of this Mark II Jaguar shell. Stu's working away on it right now, as you can see, and actually we caught up with him earlier to talk through some of the things he's been up to. So over to Stu.
So basically this week we've been measuring up. We took the old B pillars out last week. We reused those mainly because it gives us all the edges we need for the door and the new quarter. We've moved the pillars back to their new position. I made a new socket piece for in the roof to put strength back into the roof rail, and redone the gussets into the base of the pillar. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm going to remake the top section of the sill. I've removed the old sill because what we're going to do is to add a bit of strength. Because of the extra length on the door, we want to try and reinforce that section of the sill. So what we're going to use is a piece of 4-inch 16 gauge tube, which will run the whole length of the sill, and then the pillar will be gusseted down into the tube on the way there, and then the new sill will sit over the top of it. Once that's done, we've got the main structure back in the car again. We've been doing these quarter tops profile right with the rest of the door and the quarter panel. Made some new internal inner quarter sections. That will be continued down at a later date. And once these are all in place, then I can start making the new quarter down to the new seat section. That will be made in one section halfway through the wheel arch. And we're going to be putting the full arch in instead of using separate spats. So I'm taking the pattern off the other side with the spat fitted to get the profile on that. So now I'm just going to carry on and get the tubes into the seals and get its main structure solid again.
Yeah, so that's what Stu's been up to. I think this is going to be the last episode to go out before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everyone. We will have a couple of exciting episodes coming up over Christmas. One of them is going to be about the Redux M3 project, and the other is going to be Nat doing a full workshop tour, which we filmed a couple of weeks ago, which I'm really excited to see because I wasn't even here on that time. So I know he'll do a really good job of it because he's so passionate about the facilities here. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Merry Christmas, everyone, and we'll see you in the new year.